public relations for the IDF. And the reason why they do that is because the Arab world likes to malign the IDF and call them baby killers.
No, but that's one of the metrics that they track. That's one of the reasons that there was an article a number of years ago that there was a big debate in the Jewish community about whether to publish the numbers because of the belief that it was Nazi-like to run census data on Jewish participation in the military, because that was part of how Hitler determined whether or not someone was honorary, was whether or not a Jew was willing to fight for Hitler's cause. And there was a big social debate over that, and that data related to campaigns to try to deepen Israeli ties, including fighting in the Israeli Defense Force.
You're equivocating here, because you said that it was a group that tried to recruit Americans to fight in the IDF. Which isn't true. Which isn't true. No, that's not what you just said. That's not what you just said.
No, that was part of the data they collected. I can pull up a source on that.
Wait, hold on. There are many Jewish benefactors, like for example Sheldon Adelson,
right,
who are
to Birthright,
who are extremely concerned about the statistic that I mentioned earlier, that Jews in the United States are becoming less Jewish at a rate that is seeing the population of Jews have every generation.
Great. Now this is a perfect way to segue to the white identity question, because the reason that I myself became interested in the alt-right is precisely that. The concept of genocide and dwindling numbers and dwindling representational democracy, political power, as a result of falling birth rates, of ethnic displacement. And it is a concern that Jews are allowed to have about Israel and around their intermarriage concerns. And it is one that if you were to do that from a white identity perspective, it would get you completely alienated in all respects from Western society. You are not allowed to protect the genetic identity of European heritage unless you happen to be Jewish.
Do you sort of dispute that? Yeah, no, I mean, so what ended up happening was you had a bunch of people who were concerned about this, right? And it was coming out. I read an article on like the Washington Post about it like a couple of years ago, that people were getting afraid about this. And then you had groups like the alt-right who and whoever who are affiliated with less savory groups, and somehow you turn something from a civilizational social question that should have been answered: should we restrict immigration? Because it's changing the genetic landscape to a sort of something that's been tarred with the brush of extremists.
And you know why that is, though? It's because anytime you try to form any organization around that philosophy, whether or not you are a Nazi, you are called one because of the threat that it is to the political power of diversity industry organizations, of which Jewish advocacy groups are the leading edge.
Okay, and as I was telling you before, the diversity industry calls everyone Nazis. But I mean, the people who are concerned about the white population of the United States, I guess for whatever reason decided to affiliate with these unsavory groups. I mean, if they call us Nazis, let's become Nazis. It's not the best public relations strategy.
Andrew Anglin himself Andrew Anglin is on record saying the only reason he started calling himself a Nazi was because everybody else did, and that is pretty much the case with almost everyone who is at the like the harder edge of the alt-right. It is
Andrew Anglin is a propagandist against.
Are you going to say? I want to understand your honest opinion on this. Do you believe that a white identity movement, in its most benign form, which rejected all Nazi rhetoric explicitly, could be formed today without being boycotted, sanctioned, or attacked until it was commercially bankrupt on the grounds that it was Nazi-ish?
Is American Renaissance bankrupt?
They are marginalized.
They got banned from Twitter.
No, I mean, there are a lot. I've gotten banned from Twitter 4 times.
Stayed on YouTube, as a matter of fact.
They got banned off Twitter through guilt by association. And I'm a very good example of someone who gets called a Nazi every day when I've not associated with Nazis. I'm really at the edge of white nationalism. I'm not even a full-blown white nationalism. I'm all for racial diversity, but I engage with white nationalists and I respect them, and I adopt part of their beliefs.
And I'm a Jew, and I get called a capo for the beliefs that I have. The fact is, the anti-Semitism has been a cudgel that has been used for extortion and self-defense to justify bad deeds for now going on almost 100 years.
Which bad deeds?
I mean, I just gave you the example of the AIPAC.
Bad deeds? I just gave you the answer. You said 100 years.
Yes, I'll tell you why. Because in 1918, hey, slow down. You'll get the answer you're looking for. In 1918, you know how the ADL got started? It got started because someone was accused of raping a girl and was found guilty by a court, and then received a pardon from the governor, and it was basically the people rushed into jail to hang somebody who was about to be pardoned, and then the ADL formed as a way to prevent anti-Semitism, so that next time they could stop groups like that. But that itself.
So, are you defending lynchings and extrajudicial executions? I mean, I don't know the context of the Leo Frank case so much, but
because the ADL's philosophy has been to adopt exactly those same tactics. Going back, you can look up Meyer Lansky, you can look up Mo Dalitz. The ADL has been bankrolled by Las Vegas gangsters since the 1920s. It's a fact. Look it up. And the fact is, I mentioned earlier in this stream that in 2005, when those 2 AIPAC execs were caught with classified information, AIPAC's full court press on the FBI was going to be that it was anti-Semitism. The only reason this ever came to light is because they were sued for defamation, and it came out in discovery documents.
Exactly. So evidently it didn't work.
No, it didn't work because the charges got dropped. They got pardoned by Obama. Because of the power of
that doesn't mean the charges were dropped, dude.
David.
No, what I'm saying is he directed the FBI to drop the case
in 2005.
It was 2010 or something. It sounds like this is another one of these cases. This is like maybe the 4th or 5th time in this stream where very basic, like you deny that anti-Semitism is used as both a sword and a shield. It's used as a way to completely destroy enemies on grounds that are unrelated. That is, to get them censored, to lead consumer boycotts, to apply political pressure, to get political voting blocks to get angried up, and as a shield to cover up bad deeds by saying, well, you can't even talk about it at all because it's anti-Semitic. The discussion of the JQ itself is a perfect example. To even talk about it is to be called anti-Semitic. How can you deny this?
How's the anti-Semitic? I've heard lots of people discuss it in the past.
No. I'm talking about in the public square. I'm saying talking about it in polite society.
Okay, hold on, really quick. JF, are we in the public square?
Regularly. Sorry. Go ahead. No,
JF,
go ahead.
are we in the public square?
David, you're derailing so much. It's like you have 5 streams in your mind, and I can only follow one. So are we in the public square? It's a legal question. The internet operates in every way as a public space. And in fact, it's now a highway for IDs that if I was to yell on the street, no one would hear because everyone is in front of their computers. It's a complex question. It has nothing to do. Babylon, go ahead.
Terribly sorry for interrupting you there, Mr. Garipi. Anyway, going ahead. David, I just wanted to say, you said something earlier that was patently untrue. You said, well, the diversity industry calls everyone Nazis these days. First of all, no. They'll call Nazis people, generally, the closer you are to being a Westerner who wishes to present identity, or a Westerner who wishes to talk about simply things that are objective reality. Two different things that are not related. People link them. I mean, things which are related, but things that they don't need to be related. For instance, identitarian sentiment can exist without acknowledging HBD or even understanding it or anything like that. Two different things that are not related. People link them. I mean, things which are related, but things that they don't need to be related. For instance, identitarian sentiment can exist without acknowledging HBD or even understanding it or anything like that, as well as acknowledging human and biodiversity can be done without having identitarian sentiments. But that being said, basically, sorry, where was I? Basically, the point is, like a black person, when black identity or sometimes Jewish identity, oftentimes Jewish diaspora identity, some identity, mestizo, the identity being espoused by those who are generally like mestizos or some variant of indigenous population, etc. Non-European identities, when they espouse identitarian sentiment, they are not called Nazis. They are actually associated with the left. It's actually, if you'll look and see like black identitarianism in the West often, or even sometimes with Muslims, even though their values could be described in their own personal life as identitarian, traditionalist, reactionary, they are never called Nazis. The people who are called Nazis are only those who are of European descent. And also, I just wanted to say, we've established, I mean, it's been painful and incredibly annoying to do it, but bit by bit, we've gotten to the point that, Jews are not a population that originates in Europe. They are a population exogenous to Europe and to the West. And we've come to the point that, they have their own distinct ethnic or identity interest, or even then, if that isn't the case, let's say it's the mixed descendant of a Jew, they still have that history and that baggage and that narrative, as well as the whole implication of the whole identity confusion, let's say, that can exist from being a mixed race person. Mixed race people might tend to prefer an ideology that tends away from, let's say, rigid ethnic or racial identity. But anyway, so we've finally established all of this.
No,
but
we didn't. You made a jump. You made a departure in logic there.
All right, where's the departure in logic?
You said that because Jews are a group exogenous to Europe, ergo they have different interests.
Why would Jews not have different interests to Europe? The history of Jews in Europe began when Jews were, I mean, there's a longer history than that, but effectively the history of Jews in Europe as we know it began when Rome, I think after Greece, but Rome ethnically cleansed Judeans from the Levant. They renamed Judea to Palestine. Jew is an ethnonym for the Judean people. The Jewish history with Europeans is founded on conflict. I think Jews and Europeans should go their own separate ways. Jews should live in their lands and Europeans should live in their lands, and therefore we won't have this conflict of interest. Obviously there's conflict of interest.
At the time of the Roman Empire, 6 times as many Jews lived outside of the Levant as lived in it. I don't know if you're aware.
I know this happened over the course of a period of colonialism. Yes. That's what colonialism looks like.
No, I said 6 times as many Jews lived in Europe as did in Judea. Okay, so we're talking about a population that probably goes back even further than the existence of the Roman Empire.
Okay, cool. The diaspora was gradual. Great. I don't think the diaspora was anything that Jews wanted. Jews did not want to be displaced or ethnically cleansed from their indigenous land.
They were not living there when they could have moved back voluntarily. What do you mean? They were voluntarily.
There were several factors. Moving was very difficult, first of all, back then, and there are so many different factors. It's actually a very nuanced issue, but there is a reason why. If you look at, there is a consistent theme within the texts written by. You can look at Jewish authors, poets. You can look at religious texts. They're weeping on the banks of X, Y, and Z river, and they're crying, remembering their indigenous land. The point is, Jews have always wanted to return to our indigenous land. Now we have it. Or we should assimilate and fully assimilate. There is no in between. There is no fucking neoconservatism. Pardon my language. There's no neoconservatism. There's no AIPAC. There's no SPLC. Jewish identity cannot exist within the West. Jewish identity can exist in the West. Western identity can exist in the West. There's a fundamental conflict here.
I think that the ultimate disposition of the Jews in the West is assimilation. That is, and I think that that the ADL and the and AIPAC are artifacts of this assimilation, and I think that Birthright is an artifact of this assimilation.